Hello, Five Keys. This is problem number 4. This is your handy guide. Multiplying, these are called quadratics. I don't want to get too into what this represents visually, but I will tell you very briefly that this form of a math equation, when it looks like these guys, and this is what these are equivalent to, they form a parabola. So it might look like this. Uh, when we graph them. So if I were to set this equal to y, when it's in this polynomial form, they're really easy to play with algebraically, like to move things around. And when they're in this form, this is the factored form, it becomes very easy to discover where the roots are, by which I mean where does it intersect the x-axis. And these things model like acceleration. They model a projectile in motion, something falling from the sky. So as you can imagine, it's very useful to be able to go from a form that's easy to manipulate into a form where we know where zero is, because if we're measuring where something falling from the sky, we want to know where it hits the ground. So this is a skill that is important. And there's a few things that you're going to need to know something about before we get into it. The first is the distributive property. I can never spell this word. Sorry if I messed it up. Distributive property. So if you don't know the distributive property, you may want to go back and see if you can refresh yourself on it. You're going to need to know integer operation. That's add, subtract, multiply, divide with positive and negative numbers. So that one is always going to come back. And the last thing you're really going to need to have a handle on is what it means to combine like terms. And we'll review all of these things a little bit in this video, but not from the very, very beginning. So if these are new ideas to you, we may want to come back to it. You may want to review these things on with your teacher before jumping into this video. Okay, so we're multiplying the quantity 2x plus 4 times the quantity x minus 4. And you may think, well, doesn't that mean just to simplify? And in a way it does. And isn't that a PEMDAS order of operations thing? And in a way it is. But I can't do what's inside the parentheses, which is what would begin an order of operations problem, because these are not like terms. There's that expression. This is like saying I have 2 oranges and $4. I have an orange and I'm minus $4. I can't really combine them because I don't know the worth of an orange. So I'm just stuck here. But the distributive property, here's that term, tells me that I can actually multiply these together if I use this property. We may remember the distributive property from stuff like this. Um, where there's one term on the outside and then a quantity to the right. And I distribute the 4 here. So I end up with 4 times A. And I distribute the 4 to the 3. And I end up with plus 12. Again, I can't do that with this problem because there are 2 terms in this first parentheses. I'm multiplying a quantity by a quantity. But we can do this just so that you believe me, if I have 8 times 6, that's equal to 48. But if I break this up into 5 times 3, 5 plus 3, which I hope we can agree equals 8, and 2 plus 4, which I hope we can agree equals 6, we should still get 48. This is what it looks like when I multiply 2 quantities together. I'm going to use a technique called foiling. I'm going to multiply the first terms of each quantity together, 5 times 2. I'm going to multiply the outer terms of each quantity together and add it to the first terms, 5 times 4. I'm going to add the inner terms, 3 times 2, and I'm going to add them to the first 2. And then I'm going to add the last terms of each inequality. That's 3 times 4. Now I can do some order of operation stuff. I'm going to multiply first. 5 and 2 is 10. 5 and 4 is 20. 3 and 2 is 6. 3 and 4 is 12. And if I've done this right, this is equal to 48. Okay, so how does this look when I have a whole bunch of variables in the way that I do? I'll show you. Let's just get rid of some of this stuff. So that technique I was telling you about is called FOIL. And again, it stands for first, outer, inner, last. And this is how the distributed property works when I have two terms in both quantities. I'm going to do the first terms together. I'm going to call this 2x, and I'm going to call this x. Then I'm going to do the outer terms. That's this 2x and this 4. But before I do that, sorry, I'm going to do another step here. I'm going to turn all my subtraction into addition with the opposite number. And you'll see why that's helpful in a second. So now I have 2x times a negative 4. My next step is the inners. That's the 4 and the x. I don't really need this parentheses, but I'm thinking it's helpful because I've established that. And then I'm going to do the outers. Okay, I'm going to simplify this now by multiplying all these terms together. 2x times x is 2 times x to the second power. 2x times a negative 4 is a negative 8x. 4 times x is 4x. And 4 times a negative 4 is a negative 16. Okay, so at this point, we're going to combine some like terms. Remember, we can combine terms in a situation like this when the variable unit, that's everything that comes after the number coefficient, are exactly the same. So I can't add anything to 2x squared because there's only one 2x squared. So I'm left with this all by itself. Here I have a negative 8x, and I'm adding it to a positive 4x. This is my integer operation, adding and subtracting negative and positive numbers. So if you have to review that, please do. But this is a negative 4x. And I only have one number that has no variable unit, and that's a negative 16. Okay, so you may be looking at your answer set right now and saying, wait a second, I don't see that at all. Please remember that adding a negative number is the same thing as subtracting a positive one. So I'm going to change this adding a negative numbers to subtraction up with a positive. And now I can see very clearly that 2x squared minus 4x minus 16 is my right answer. Okay, that might seem like a lot. And I know I'm all about the cheat codes with this GED stuff. This is your cheat code. Please learn this technique. There's the multiplying quadratics worksheet right here. You'll have plenty of time to practice. Go over them and go over them and go over them. We're going to do one more. With this next problem, we're going to lean into this technique just a little bit more so that we have some more practice with it. But this is one that's going to get you at least 3 or 4 problems correct on the GED. So learn how to multiply these quadratics, okay? All right, good work. I will see you on the next video.